Power to Imagination echoes a slogan which popped up in May 1968, so 50 years ago, when students and other young people in France, as in many Western countries, stood up against old powers, old ideas, old ways of life. And I have to confess I was one of them. Certainly in the last half century, the world has been moving fast. Globalization of information interacts with globalization of political issues, and the global economy is gradually pulling down from the barriers to trade and services. But globalization doesn't lead to uniformity. On the contrary, it allows for more diversity in the way people think, look, eat, dream, love. So the question I want to ask today to our distinguished panelists is, how do new concepts and ideas in the fields of politics, economy, media have changed the face of Nepali society, and how far does it resound with global trends?
And just like our towns, many people say our towns are like living museums, I think our people are like living manifestations of globalization. In many ways, we are culturally leapfrogging, but what about politically, economically, socially? How is imagination shaping the evolution of Nepal today, and how do we compare to the rest of the world?
For me, we as a collective imaginative nation really took off after 1990, when the democracy was restored and openness came into being in our living, in the way we think, the way we read. And in the later half of 1990s, and also with the onset of, say, 2000s, we also had internet, this big beast, but also helped in big time. So on the one hand, the openness that our new constitution guaranteed, and the other hand, the huge availability of information broadened the space of knowledge like never before. The 2006 movement that happened, another popular movement in 15 years, what was to me but a natural blossoming of what took place in 1990. So much of knowledge and openness was vested on us by the new constitution and the technology that was coming in. In a life of a nation, nation building is a huge process. And somehow we got rid of monarchy, and we are starting federalism, the project. And we seem to be stuck, somewhere our imagination has come unhinged in the greediness of power politics and, very, very deep political partisan interests, But 2006 and 2008 was so beautiful, as Subina was saying. The sheer weight of that imagination to live in a new nation that would be inclusive, that would respect human rights, that would of course have some prosperity, but not prosperity gung-ho, not at the cost of social justice. I think we are again, living through frustrating times.
I guess we're all waiting.
But we also have to see that the Left Alliance has had a pretty solid majority. We can only hope that they will take the project forward. Stay imaginative, that's all I can say. There is so much more opportunity now than there was earlier. So we have that, how would I say, the platform prepared to take off, to answer your question. But I am also, because my topic is about political imagination, we got to be careful here to draw a boundary between national pride, from jingoism. While we Nepalese have to be very proud in a community of nations about our values, cultures, our languages, our diversity, of course, but we also have to be very careful that we don't become hyper-nationalistic, which kind of puts obstacle to our otherwise very good neighborhood atmosphere. When I say neighborhood atmosphere, the two largest economies are also currently the fastest growing economies, and there is so much opportunities that offer for us. Yes, I would definitely say that. There's a knowledge base, there is technology, there is innovation. We just need to get out of our very, very unimaginative and at times deeply paranoid political character and make a leap of faith. I think we'll see changes not too distant, good changes I would say, not in too distant future.
I was thinking about this big topic as Akhilesh and I mentioned about imagination and power, and it took me back to my childhood days when my uncle used to ask us a lot of riddles. So he used to place an apple in my hand and ask me, so how many apples do you have in your hand? And as smart as I thought I was at that time, I used to say 1. He said, no. How many apples do you have? I said 1. He said, no. You have a tree full of apples in your hand. And how? I asked him, so he said, so once you eat the apple, you get the seeds, and you can plant the seeds, and you have an apple tree for yourself. So I think, in retrospect, when I think of that example, it brings me back to the topic of imagination and its power. A lot of Nepali business men and women here right now would agree with me that I think we are one of the most courageous and imaginative breed of business men and women being Nepali, because we have so many hurdles and obstacles, whether it be political, economic, or social, or even open secrets like mafias and syndicates. So in my case, when I saw that there were approximately 8 to 13,000 waste entrepreneurs just in the capital, and that's a huge number for a small city like Kathmandu, and at the same time, 70% of the waste that they're supposed to collect ends up in the landfill. So the math did not work out there. So I just connected the dots, and that's how Khaalisisi.com came about. So it's, how do you imagine what you have in your hand? Creates the opportunities for you. When bent to ego, you only see what you hold, what you see, what you smell, what you taste. But when you have this power of imagination, your business can do so much more for you and create so many more opportunities. That's why I think imagination is in the business sector.
What we are seeing in France today, I believe, politically speaking, is the end of that sequence. The sequence that started with May 1968 in France, the emergence of new leaders, a number of them became later politicians, member of parliaments, sometimes ministers, and so on. This sequence is coming to an end. We are now seeing a new sequence, and I believe Macron is a symbol of that. We started to speak about imagination and how we can fuel, let's say, the revamp of our democratic system, the revamp of our economies. The very first thing I have in mind, and maybe France and at that can be an example, is that clearly it's possible now to give more power to the youth. When I see the brightness of people, young people who are 30, 35, I think it's time for them to come to power, hopefully through democratic means, because they have now, with technology, the capacity to change much more than our generation can do. And the second thing, when I look at the difficulty of our democracies in Western Europe, in the Western world, because we are suffering from populism, from the rise of inequalities and so on, I would say it's important, and Switzerland on that can be an example, to have an efficient political system. People today, because of the social media, they want to know that those they elect are delivering something. So our politicians and us, the media, we've got to be very careful at maybe talking less and delivering more.
Imagination, for me, kind of hit the pinnacle in 2006 when, after the end of the 10-year war, and we suddenly had this promise, and I kind of rode in that euphoria of like the possibilities, and had the wildest kind of imagination, the imagination of like a girl from the most disadvantaged community dreaming up to become prime minister or a small leader, if you say that I'm being too naive about it, or community leaders. So dreams of leadership was what I had imagined at that time for the ones who don't have that capacity right now to dream of that. But then it didn't take long to realize that there is the powers to be don't necessarily allow these dreams to fly. And democracy is not just an open path to openness, like it doesn't just lead to an openness, there's always a backlash. And when that backlash came, when people who are from different communities, different backgrounds, started asking for the share of the pie to become a part of that power structure within Nepal, I think we need to go back to that old imagination of 2006 to imagine once again like how the most underprivileged, like most backward communities can come up, and those roads, I think we need to open it again and this can be a completely wild imagination, and you can think that I'm just being an idealist, and it's not an age for idealism. But I think since we're talking about imagination, we might as well go wild.